This is the Blu G91 Pro. It's the latest and greatest from Blu smartphones, and honestly, it has me thinking, why do you need to pay double or honestly even 4 times as much for a smartphone sometimes when this one kind of does everything you're gonna need it to? Before we get started on the review, quick disclaimer, Blu did send me out this review unit about a week ago to test it out and to do this review. They had no input in my review. They didn't tell me what to include in this review. They didn't even see this video before it went live. They simply just sent me out a review kit, and this is now my review. So let's talk about what the G91 Pro is. Because even though it has that word Pro in the name, it doesn't have the normal Pro price tag. This smartphone costs $250, but Blu actually has a really great deal for those who want to buy this smartphone early. So stay tuned until the end of the video to hear more about that great deal. But even at $250, this is a budget smartphone. But don't let that price tag fool you, because you get a lot for that money. And let's start off with the unboxing, because honestly, this is where Blu continues to shine. Right up front, we have the G91 Pro. So let's set that to the side. Underneath that, we have a 30-watt fast charging brick. And in a world where companies are removing these charging bricks, it's nice that Blu, for a sub $300 phone, is including the charging brick inside. If that wasn't enough, you get some wired earbuds in the box as well. A really nice and durable USB Type-A to USB Type-C charging cable. And it comes in this kind of, I don't know, clear silver design. You also get a sticker from Blu, a SIM injector tool, and some getting started paperwork. Blu even included a case inside the box. It has sort of this carbon fiber design on the back, and it seems to be really durable. But if that wasn't enough, you also get a screen protector and a microfiber cloth. You literally get everything you're gonna need inside this box. Companies that charge $1,000 or more for a smartphone, they're looking to remove things from their boxes, but looks like Blu is just continuing to include more and more. And now let's take a look at the Blu G91 Pro itself. This is the graphite color, but it will also come in a moonstone color as well. It's of course made of plastic, which depending on your preferences could be good or bad, but it's a real clean design. It has this metallic gradient finish on the back that looks to keep fingerprints off, which is always something I appreciate. You have a quad camera setup on the back with a fingerprint sensor and some Blu branding as well on the back. You have this kind of glossy plastic sides, which I'm not a big fan of glossy plastic. You can see there it has plastic volume up and down buttons, a plastic power button, and on the bottom, you actually have a headphone jack, as well as a USB Type-C port and a single speaker. Up front, you can see the large 6.7-inch display with a punch hole selfie camera. And on the left, you actually get a dedicated Google Assistant button, which is nice to see here. So I've been using this phone for about a week now, and I've been actually really pleasantly surprised by how great it's been. Blu is of course marketing this phone as a gaming phone. So let's start off with the performance, because that's what they want you to look at, right? The G91 Pro has the MediaTek Helio G90 processor inside. And look, it's a budget processor. Whenever I hear that word MediaTek, the first thing that comes to mind is a budget processor. But it actually performs better than I thought it would. The phone has been handling everything I can throw at it. It comes with 6 gigs of RAM, which isn't a lot, but it's enough so that applications aren't constantly refreshing. I haven't had the issue where I go back to an application and it has to refresh. I can easily go back to another app and I'm right where I left off. I'm not a huge benchmark person. I kind of feel like benchmarks don't tell the whole story when it comes to smartphones. But if you are, here is the Geekbench 5 test results. So take a look at it and compare it there. And here is the 3D Mark graphics benchmark test as well. So yeah, looking at the results, when compared to flagship smartphones, it doesn't really look too good, right? But you have to keep in mind that this phone is $250. It has a very low price tag, especially when you consider that those flagships, they cost 4 to 5 times as much, and you're only getting double the performance. But honestly, day-to-day use, this phone is great. I've been playing mobile games and I haven't experienced really any slowdowns, any drop frames. And one of the best parts of this phone is actually the battery life. I'm getting through a full day, no problem. I'm getting 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, and really it's due to that large 5000 milliamp hour battery that's inside. And the processor, obviously, it's a budget processor. It doesn't seem to suck up as much battery life as those Snapdragon processors. So when it comes to performance, better than you might think, kind of all the way around. And in some cases, for example, battery life, it's actually kind of better than most flagships, to be perfectly honest. But let's talk about that large 6.7 inch 2400 by 1080 resolution display. It has a 60 Hz refresh rate, so you're not getting that buttery smooth 120 Hz refresh rate. Don't expect that from a phone at this price tag. But the display is actually one of the best parts of this phone. It's an edge-to-edge display. Colors are vivid and it gets plenty bright. You have a bottom firing speaker, which isn't very good, to be perfectly honest. It isn't bad and it gets plenty loud, but there's nothing special about it. But the good thing is you do have a headphone jack, so you can just plug in some headphones if you want to, or some earbuds, and listen that way if you don't want to listen on this speaker. But honestly, watching content on this phone, I didn't feel like I was using a budget device. The display is great for playing games, watching movies, watching TV shows. It's an all-around great display, especially at this price point. But let's talk about the cameras. You get a quad camera setup on the back, a 48 megapixel main camera sensor, a 2 megapixel depth sensor for the portrait mode, a 5 megapixel wide angle camera, and a 2 megapixel macro sensor. Now, the 48 megapixel sensor can get some good shots with good accuracy and sharp images, but I found myself trying to avoid the other camera sensors. For example, that ultra wide sensor, the 5 megapixel ultra wide sensor, it's not very good. I didn't like the photos I get from it. So instead of trying to get an ultra wide shot, I would honestly just keep it at 1x and maybe just take a few steps back so I could use that main camera sensor, because I would get much better photos from that 48 megapixel sensor on the back. Macro shots are nice to have, and the camera app has plenty to choose from, including portrait shots. There's also a night mode, there's a pro mode which lets you adjust the ISO and white balance. You can record up to 4K video on this phone, and there's even a slow mode feature, which is nice to have in a budget phone. It's nice to have all these great camera features, especially once again at a phone at this price point. The selfie camera is also pretty good. It's a 16 megapixel sensor, and I'm not much of a selfie person, but if you are, the camera does a better job than I thought it would, when it comes to selfies at least. If you want more of an in-depth video on the camera, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I will be doing a camera comparison with the G91 Pro and the S21 Ultra, so you can kind of get an idea of how good or how this compares to a much more expensive flagship smartphone. And you'll be surprised at the results this smartphone can get. Look, hopefully by now you can see that this phone has a lot of things going for it. It's honestly never been a better time to buy a smartphone. While flagships have kind of reached this peak and plateau, now there's really not much else they can do. Budget and mid-range smartphones are the ones making these giant leaps. And we're seeing it with smartphones like this one. Blu has really made an effort to pack in as much as they can into a relatively low price tag when it comes to the G91 Pro. For example, you have fast wire charging with the included power brick that's inside the box. This phone also has 10-watt wireless charging built in. You get face unlock with this phone. You also have a fingerprint sensor on the back that actually works really well. The fingerprint sensor is quick and responsive. It comes with 128 gigabytes of internal storage with a micro SD card expansion slot. And this phone even has 2 SIM card slots, so you can have 2 lines connected to the same phone. I mean, these are features that flagship smartphones don't even have. The Blu G91 Pro has them. It's shipping with Android 11, and you kind of get a close to stock experience on the Blu G91 Pro. Very little bloatware. You even have a dedicated Google Assistant button, like I mentioned earlier, so you can quickly summon Google Assistant and ask it to do things for you. Look, it might seem that all I'm saying about this phone is positive things. It of course isn't a perfect phone, right? Cameras aren't perfect, they could be better. Other smartphones have better cameras, but when you look at the complete package, this $250 phone has things, once again, that flagship phones don't have. Things that companies charging double and triple that amount decide to remove from their smartphones to save money. Blu has gone all out, and it's getting to a point when you look at these budget smartphones, why would you spend so much more for something that pretty much does the same thing at a much lower price tag? That line between great and low price is getting closer and closer. Look, if that wasn't enough, Blu has a crazy good deal for those of you that want to purchase the all-new Blu G91 Pro early on. Customers who are first in line can get the Blu G91 Pro for $100 off. That means this phone would only be $150. That's a crazy good deal. And they're even throwing in, for the first few hundred purchases of the Blu G91 Pro, they're giving you the all-new AriaPod Plus from Blu. They're wireless earbuds. They normally cost $30, but you can get them for free if you're one of the first few hundred that purchase the Blu G91 Pro. Look, I wish I could complain more about this phone, but for that price tag, there isn't much to complain about. So if you want to check out the Blu G91 Pro, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos just like this one on tech news, reviews, and opinions, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.